Hello, welcome back. This is lesson number 4. How did you get on with completing your membership onion and your core values? I hope you're staying up to date with your homework. This lesson is all about structure and workflow. So how do we structure the DAO and how does the work flow through the structure? Let's get started. So, what is the right way to structure a DAO? Well, to be honest, that's the wrong question. The correct question, and the one you should be asking yourself, is what is the right way to structure this DAO based on what we're building or looking to achieve? So just a quick caveat. Nothing in this video is the blueprint or the best practice for structuring a DAO. Every DAO is unique, so you might find some of what I have to say applicable, but whatever is not relevant to you, just disregard it and do what works for your DAO. In the early days of a startup, there's only one team, and it's all hands on deck. While we may have different skills and experience, we come together in a much more fluid way, jumping in and out of tasks as needed. Founders, co-founders, and early employees wear many different hats. So a founder might be doing marketing, product development, and customer services at the same time. But with success, the workload becomes too great, and we have to bring on more people. So suddenly, it's much harder to keep tabs on who's doing what, and the work gets more specialized. And so, we start to define roles, and over time, these roles expand into separate functions, which eventually form isolated groups. Collaboration is key to get things done though, and often requires a substantial amount of communication and coordination. So when achieving this harmony becomes too tough, we end up resorting to a rigid hierarchy, sacrificing our innovative drive for a more streamlined structure. In this setup, everyone has a superior, who in turn reports to another superior, and so on. This fixed hierarchy can curb creativity, hinder our flexibility and adaptability, and generally slows down operations. Decision-making becomes a lengthy process that requires multiple approvals all the time. So let this be a word of warning to you. When your DAO starts to scale, be cautious not to fall into this restrictive pattern. We should aspire for our DAO to act like a dynamic network. There is no CEO or C-level executives. There is no formal command and control hierarchy. Members of this system have the freedom to organize around projects in order to seize opportunity and accelerate their own personal growth. Members can hold one role or multiple roles in multiple places at the same time, and they can maintain a more interesting set of relationships across the entire network. Teams of teams operate as cells in a network, each with their own purpose. Talent and information can flow freely. A project can be defined and contributors from different guilds or working groups can come together to complete it. Let's look at some examples of how DAOs are currently structured. Gitcoin is structured into what they call work streams, each group responsible for a certain function, with a workstream lead coordinating all of the work. Forefront is structured into guilds, the Writers Guild, the Growth Guild, and the Culture Guild. And within each of these guilds, they have specialist teams. So in the Writers Guild, they have editorial, education, and research teams. MakerDAO has now introduced the concept of sub-DAOs. These sub-DAOs are self-standing, unique mini-DAOs. Their semi-independent nature helps segregate complexity from the MakerDAO core. However, sub-DAO governance runs on top of Maker Core's governance infrastructure, and Maker token holders retain control of many of the sub-DAO's assets. So as you can see, there are many different ways to think about structuring a DAO. Okay, let's say a DAO has a defined structure in place. But how do these guilds or work streams or working groups actually get work done? Pablo, who is currently a lead engineer and core contributor at MoonDAO, has a spicy take on this. He goes on to say that to get things done, guilds do not work because they are large teams of low context people. There's low commitment from members, so things fall through. A lack of deadlines means that things take forever. A lack of strong entry criteria means that anyone can join, and the same questions keep popping up because of low context people in each guild. However, he goes on to say that projects do work because a project team is aligned with the DAO through a vote that clearly lists its objectives and success factors. Small teams of people are focused on tasks. Joining a project requires commitment up front. Leaders can remove people who are hindering the completion of tasks, and finally, deadlines and priorities mean that stuff actually get done. But he also argues that guilds can be used as a soft culture building when onboarding into a DAO with low commitment up front. However, members who truly want to get involved should not stay in a guild for long. They should join a project to actually get real work done. Now, what Pablo was describing there can be considered the concept of SLAM teams. SLAM stands for self-managed, lean, audacious, and multidisciplinary. Now, exactly what is a SLAM team and how might that concept be applied to a DAO? A series of SLAM teams are assembled to complete independent missions or projects from the beginning to the end. In practice, this means that each team is pursuing an audacious goal for the DAO with the authority to make decisions and to work unencumbered. No outside reviews, input, or feedback from the DAO can disrupt the work that they are doing. The team is totally self-managed. In addition, SLAM teams are lean, so they are small enough to move quickly, but they are also multidisciplinary, meaning they contain all of the skills and the experience that they need to achieve their mission. Introducing a few teams like this can really take a step forward to creating a responsive structure and can result in much shorter cycle times and better outcomes. So in this graphic, you might assemble a team completely focused on designing and building a website. Another team, in Colony's case, is working totally independently on our standalone project called Coin Machine. And yet another team is solely responsible for delivering a product launch campaign. Again, these teams work from start to finish, independently from other teams within the DAO, and without their supervision. This is where trust and accountability really comes into play. Another useful structure is dynamic teaming. Find a part of your DAO where teams change regularly and turn it into a dynamic two-way marketplace. First, create a talent pool of part-time contributors with various skills. You can see them pooled here together in the middle. The rules are simple. Number 1, project teams or specific functions like software development, for instance, have the authority in the DAO to add and remove members from the talent pool. Number 2, members have the ability to join or leave teams with reasonable notice. Rule number 3, members can manage their own bandwidth, so they can actually hold more than one role. Open roles are shared transparently with the talent pool, and members can apply by meeting with the team, discussing the work, and then sharing what they have to offer. You might have a formal or an informal process here in place, but it's really just a search for a good two-way fit. This also works really well with more ad hoc bounty-based work, so give it a try. Okay, so we've talked about the structure, but how do we manage and coordinate the work? Well, one way to keep your team on track is to work in short bursts or sprints. So instead of relying on the project's timeline and complexity, try running your project as a series of 1 or 2 week sprints. You can think of a sprint as a mini deadline where you need to produce and share a piece of work before the end of that deadline. This is of course not a new concept. A lot of traditional startups have been using this approach as part of Scrum and Agile project management frameworks for a very long time. But guess what? It actually seems to work pretty well in DAOs too. Sprints can actually help your team develop good habits that don't often come unless there's a fast pace. For starters, they get teams moving. If you know you have to finish something by the end of the first week, you won't waste time overthinking minor things like choosing an image for a blog post. Sprints also make teams break down the work into smaller, manageable pieces. If you're building a protocol or a decentralized app, it's not going to be done in a week. So, teams need to figure out what can be accomplished, like creating a basic version of a product, designing a prototype, or shipping a new feature design. Because by the end of the sprint, something needs to be ready to go. And of course, sprints make decisions happen much faster. Instead of arguing or fretting over what could be, the time limit means that it's much better to just make a decision than wait. If we show our users or our community the work from the sprint and it turns out we were off target, so what? We only spent a week or two going down a path that could have wasted months under any different circumstances. Okay, that's all the content for lesson number 4. Here's what you need to do next. Number 1, create a structure diagram for your DAO in whatever way you want to visualize it. Number 2, communicate it to everyone on the outside of your DAO to see. Be transparent and show potential contributors where they might fit in considering their skills and their experience. Number 3, make sure new contributors understand their roles and their responsibilities and how to get started. And number 4, create simple agreements about how teams are formed and changed, and then let people go where their skills and energy take them. Right, you're about halfway through this course. Well done on getting this far. To help you create a structure diagram, follow the link below this video to a template that you can use as a basis for your own. Or if the template doesn't resemble what you had in mind, just draw one from scratch using an online drawing tool. In your homework document, make sure you paste this structure diagram and also complete all of the questions in the structure and workflow section. I'll see you in lesson number 5. Keep going and good luck.